All right, so in this video, we're going to learn how to navigate from a parent view down to a subview. And this is a very common thing that we do in iOS apps and Android apps as well. And typically you're going to have a list of items that you're going to show, and then the user wants to tap into any one of them to kind of get more detail about that particular item. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to use enums and structs and a bunch of things that we've learned about so far, and we'll use them here as another example. So let's suppose that we're doing a quick little app that is showing the makes of different cars. So what we want to do is probably declare first a struct that identifies the car itself. And remember, our structs are nouns. So we could say struct car and open and close bracket. And now we want to give it some properties. Now, one of the properties that we want to give it is maybe the make of the car. And remember, we've talked about on our Saturday sessions that in enums, enums are a perfect opportunity to use when there's a common grouping. So you could think of all the makes of all the cars in the world as basically a very large enum of all of the different makes. Now, obviously, we're not going to go through them all. I'm going to just do 3 of them as a popular one. And so we're going to come up here and we're going to type in enum, and then we'll type in, let's say, car make, and then open and close curly brackets. And then here inside the enum, we want to do a case for each of the different makes that we want to have in our app. So let's do one. Let's say I'm going to do one maybe as Toyota. I'm going to do one that is a Honda, and I'm going to do one that is a Chevy. Now, we could go on and on here. Note that the enum itself is like a new type, just like bool. Now we have car make. And because it's a type, it has a capital C. The first letter is capitalized, but we don't capitalize the letters here for different choices in our enum. So just with typing this much, let's make sure we build. And so I'm going to do a Command B, and we get a build succeeded. That's great. So now we can come back here to car and say one of the properties associated with the car is its make. So we could say var make colon is going to be car make, right? So it is of type car make. Now we're not going to assign it any initial value. We'll do that when we actually create the structs. So in this scenario, we now have a struct called car that has a make, and then we also have these this car make enum that we can use. So now down here, let's look at creating an array of cars, one of maybe of each of these makes, and displaying them over here as a list. And we'll do that using the for each. And we're going to obviously create a state variable here, right in this section, that is our array. And we'll make it a state variable so that if we actually deleted an element, the array can be modified and the UI would be updated. So here I could say at state var, let's call it cars. And now we can say, we won't use type inference here. We'll be a little more literal. We're going to say it's of type car, but it is an array, right? So it is left square bracket, right square bracket with car. And then we can actually give it an initial value. So let's start with a left bracket again, because this is going to be an array. And every element in the array is a car. So we can say car, open paren, and see how it completes that for us. It's completing that make. So we can say make, and why don't we say that this is Toyota? And notice I just typed .toy, and sure enough, I now have an array with a single element in it. In fact, if I Command B here, I have a build succeed. We're all good. We don't have any errors. But let's go ahead and put the other 2 in. So I'm going to say comma, and then I'm going to say car make is going to be Honda, and then the third one is going to be car make, and that is going to be Chevy. Now, notice here I didn't type the dot. It didn't complete properly, and we have an error. Remember, when we refer to these enumerated types here, we need to put dot. And the reason is that really it's assuming car make in front of it. So like this could be car make dot Toyota. And that is the same as dot Toyota because it's inferring the type. Here when we say dot Toyota, it's inferring that from that it's car make and also seeing that the make here is of car make. So we don't have to say it again. Okay, so now we've created these three elements. Now what we want to do is we want to iterate over these. And so just like the for in loop that you have in Swift, we have a for each loop for Swift UI. So what we can do is we can take this text out, and what I'm going to do is anytime I do a for each, I want you to think about putting it inside something called a list. And all this is a nice formatted way for the system to give you a list of items, and it will gray the background. It will give you nice dividers between each element in the list. So you get a lot of things for free when you do that. So it kind of acts like a VStack, but it actually is giving you some more UI associated with it. And it also will left justify everything or make it all leading. So here we have list, and then the next thing we're going to do is for each. So I'm going to type in for each, open paren, and I'm not going to worry about any of the completions here. I just know that this is the variable that I'm going to iterate over. So in this case, it's cars, right? So I'm going to put cars here. And then what I want to do is one of these closures again, very much like we did on the on change, where we're going to do open bracket. We're going to say car in, and then I'm going to hit enter. And what we've done is this for each, as it goes through each of the cars, it's going to pass in car, one of the elements of the array, and we can do with it whatever we want. All right. So now you'll notice right here that it says that this for each requires that car conform to identifiable. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that when we iterate over something, the UI has to know that each element that we've iterated over is in fact unique. And because of that, we need to have a way to know that each element here is unique. Now, it doesn't do that automatically. And the easiest way to make something conform to that is, first of all, we can go up here to car and we can say :identifiable. When we do that, we now are saying that you are going to conform to the identifiable protocol. Don't worry about what that means as far as a protocol is concerned. Just know that if car is going to be identifiable, we have to put this :identifiable here. Now it's saying that, hey, you actually don't conform to it, even though you say you are going to. And the reason is that we need an ID attribute. So anything that is going to conform to identifiable needs that. So what we can do is we can say var ID equals, and then what I want you to always do is this. So you're going to say UUID, open close paren, dot UUID string. When you do that, UUID is this universal ID that is going to be generated right at the time, and it is guaranteed really to be unique. The odds of it ever repeating are in the billions of years of doing it over and over and over very frequently. So we consider that unique. So what this does now is now as we iterate through each of these elements, every one of these is identifiable because it does conform to identifiable and it has this ID. And now if I do Command B, sure enough, I build and I'm successful. Now down here, we're going through our for each, but we haven't actually put anything inside it. So let's do that. So I'm going to say text, and then I'm going to do a string here. But what I want to do is / open close paren. So we're going to do string interpolation. And now what I want to do is I want to print out something about the car itself. Well, we could print the ID, but that wouldn't be very useful because we'd have all these strange IDs. It wouldn't tell us anything. But we could actually do the enumerated type, whether it's Toyota, Honda, or Chevy. Now, if I say that, let's say car.make here, and we do Command B, we see that it says, hey, this actually is not interpolatable. Basically, what it's saying is we don't know, car.make is not a string. It's actually an enumerated type of these elements. But we can say that it conforms to string so that it prints something out here by putting a colon up here and say string. So now that we've added string here, it gives us the opportunity to do what's referred to as raw value. The raw value is going to be whatever value the system has assigned to each of these cases. And because we said string here, it's actually going to use this name as its raw value. So right here, I can type raw value, Command B, and I have succeeded. Now, we haven't tried to look at this over here yet. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit resume. And sure enough, if I just click the outside of this area here so we don't have those blue squares, we see we have Toyota, Honda, and Chevy. So this actually executed, and we're going through a list, and we're looking pretty good. Okay. So what we want to do now is we want to actually jump into this and be able to navigate to another view. So one of the ways to do that is, and the primary way to do that, is to basically put this whole thing in what's called a navigation view. So we're going to do that. Now, if I come over here and I do Command Option and I do left click, note it does not show anything here that is useful as far as creating a navigation view. But what we can do is just temporarily, let's embed it in a VStack, and then we'll change VStack to navigation view. And we'll do Command B. Everything still builds. Let's go over here and resume here. And nothing's really changed here other than it does look like there's some space here at the top, and that's because it wants to have a navigation title that we could put here. So let's go do that. Now, you don't add the modifier to the navigation view itself. You add it to any of the subviews within the navigation view. So here I'm going to say dot navigation title, and let's say popular car makes. And sure enough, as we add that navigation title in, again, we don't do it on the navigation view itself, you do it on one of the subviews, we see we now have that title here, and every one of these is now basically something that could be navigated to if we chose to do that. So, of course, we need a place to navigate to. We need a view that we're going to go to. And that's probably in this for each. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this out as a new subview, which you've done before. So I'm going to click here and say extract to subview. And I now have this extracted view down here, right? And remember what we wanted to do is this extracted view, we don't want to keep that name. So let's call it, I am going to right click, refactor, rename, and call it car detail and hit enter. So now this is what we're calling here for every car. And we have car detail here, but notice car is not defined, right? And car is not defined because I don't see anything here that says there's no state variable or any variable that is car. We basically need to pass that in. So to do that, we're going to say, let's say, let car colon car as our parameter that we're going to pass in. And now when we command build this, we see that this compiles now. But up here, it's saying, hey, you're not passing the parameter. So we can go ahead and do this, and we can say fix, and we are going to actually, pass the car variable in. So now for every one of these, instead of this text being right here, we actually call this car detail. And that's because we want to build up that new view, right? So if we just go ahead and resume again, we have, basically there's no visual change so far. But what we really want to do is we want to be able to navigate to this car detail. We want to jump down and go to it. So the way we do that is inside this for each, we are going to create a navigation link. So the way we do that is we hit enter here, and I would say navigation link. I'm going to pick that second one, and I'm going to do an open paren, And I want you to search through this list here, and I want you to find the one that says destination and label. It's only those two things. That's the ones I want you to find. And I want you to hit enter. Now, for destination, we're going to hit enter again. That's highlighted. Boom. So this now doesn't show destination anymore, but it does show label. This is where we're going to go when we tap on this particular row. Well, we want to go to that car detail. So I'm going to just type in here car detail. Car is going to be car. And then we're going to take this out because that is no longer part of this. And then the label can be right here. We can say text car.make.raw value. So if I command B this, now everything compiles here. And if we resume over here, you'll notice now what happened. Look, we still have Toyota, Honda, and Chevy like we had, right? So this is iterating over those, and this label is being used at each one. But now every one of those links has a way to, when you tap on it, to go down to a new view. So let's suppose we do that. And also notice here on the right, we have these little navigation arrows indicating now that I can tap down. So when I tap on Toyota, but we remember we have to turn this blue button on so that it's actually running. So now when we tap on Toyota, look what it does. It goes to this new view. This text is right in the middle, so it's just floating there. So the text of the raw value of what was passed in. And notice how that title of where we came from was given to us at the top. So we can click here and go back. If I click here to Honda, I get Honda. And if I click here to Chevy, I get Chevy. So that is the essence of doing a navigation view where you navigate down into a subview. Essentially, you have a couple things. One is the root view is going to have a navigation view. You really only want one of these. This is at the parent view. Every time you go down, you could have subview after subview after subview that you navigate to. You're not going to add new navigation views. You only want one. Then you have a list, typically, because you're listing over a set of things. Then this for each is going to be your iterator over the different elements. Remember, whatever you're iterating over, hopefully is a struct that has an identifiable protocol. And remember, it has the var ID here. And we then finally finish with, instead of just putting the text here, we actually define a navigation link where the navigation link has two pieces. It has this destination piece. So when you tap on it, it actually brings in this car detail view. And this is actually what displays before you tap on it. And essentially, that's it. The only other thing I would add toward the end here is notice how when we tapped into this guy, we don't have any navigation title up here. We have the back button, and we have whatever we're putting here in the center, but we don't have a navigation title. We're going to fix that in the next code along, because in the next code along, what I want to do is bring in some images and have those images show based on the what we navigated into.